For 34 years, I was the girl who stayed. While my sisters packed their bags, got married, and moved away, I was the one left standing in the doorway of the big house, waving goodbye. People called me Saint Jana. They called me the Cinderella of the Duggar family. They thought I was content to just wait, but they were wrong. I wasn't waiting, I was preparing, and when I finally left, I didn't just leave a zip code. I left an entire identity. I traded the cameras for cornfields. I traded the chaos for quiet. And most importantly, I traded the role of daughter for the role of mother. Today, I am driving back up that long, winding driveway in Arkansas. But this time, I'm not alone. In the back seat, sleeping in a car seat, is a secret that my parents haven't met yet. My son. And as the house comes into view, I'm terrified. Because I'm not just bringing a baby home. I'm bringing my freedom home. My name is Jana, and this is the story of how I finally found my own voice. To understand why coming back is so hard, you have to understand what it took to leave. Living in that house, it was like living in a fishbowl. Every move, every outfit, every conversation was watched, not just by millions of strangers on TV, but by the expectations of my family. I was the dependable one. If a baby needed changing, Jana did it. If a meal needed cooking for 20 people, Jana did it. I was the captain of the calm in a sea of chaos. But inside, I was drowning. I remember watching Ginger move to LA, wearing pants and walking down Rodeo Drive. I remember Jill breaking away and telling her truth. And I felt stuck. I felt like the anchor of a ship that had already sailed. Moving to Nebraska wasn't just about marrying Stephen. It was about survival. I needed to know who Jana was when nobody was watching. I packed my life into cardboard boxes, and with every box I taped shut, I felt a little lighter. Driving away that final time, watching the house disappear in the rearview mirror, I cried. Not because I was sad, but because I was finally exhaling after holding my breath for 3 decades. Nebraska is quiet. That was the first thing that shocked me. In Arkansas, silence didn't exist. There was always a piano banging, kids running, phones ringing, producers shouting. But here, the wind just blows through the grass. I remember my first week here. I woke up at 6 a.m. out of habit, ready to start a chore list for 10 siblings. And then I realized there was no list. The house was still. Stephen was sleeping. The coffee pot was gurgling softly. I sat on the back porch and just stared at the horizon. For the first time in my life, nobody needed me to do anything. I didn't have to perform. I didn't have to smile for a camera. I could just drink my coffee and watch the sunrise. It was terrifying at first. When you've spent your whole life being useful, silence feels like failure. But slowly, I learned to love it. I learned that I am worthy of love not because of what I do, but because of who I am. And then the stick turned pink. Finding out I was pregnant with Archie was the most private, holy moment of my life. In the past, a Duggar pregnancy was a press release. It was a magazine cover. It was a very special episode. But this was just ours. Stephen and I held each other in the bathroom, crying happy tears, and we made a pact right then and there. We wouldn't tell the world. Not yet. We wanted to keep this little miracle to ourselves. I wanted to feel the first kicks without thousands of people speculating about my due date. I wanted to buy tiny clothes without a camera crew filming my reaction. Walking around the grocery store in Nebraska, visibly pregnant but unrecognized, it felt like a superpower. I had this beautiful secret growing inside me, and for the first time, my body belonged only to me and my baby. It wasn't content, it was life. But you can't hide a baby forever, and you can't hide from your family forever. When Archie was born, the joy was overwhelming. He has Stephen's eyes and my nose. He is perfect, but holding him made me realize something. I wanted my parents to know him. Despite everything, despite the rules, the trauma, the headlines, Jim Bob and Michelle are still my mom and dad, and I wanted them to see their grandson. But the thought of going back paralyzed me. I had changed so much in Nebraska. I wear jeans now. I have my own opinions. I don't ask for permission. Would they accept this new Jana? Or would I walk back through those doors and immediately shrink back into the dutiful daughter? Stephen held my hand one night and said, "You aren't going back as a child, Jana. You are going back as a mother." That changes everything. He was right. I wasn't the same girl who left. I was bringing reinforcements. The drive from Nebraska to Arkansas is long, endless miles of highway, but the longest mile is the one that leads up to the big house. As we turned off the main road, my heart started hammering against my ribs. Thump, thump, thump. My hands were sweating on the door handle. I looked back at Archie. He was asleep, oblivious to the history of this place. He doesn't know about the TV show. He doesn't know about the scandals. To him, this is just a house. We drove past the security gate. The gravel crunched under the tires, a sound I know better than my own voice. I saw the familiar brick walls, the massive fountain, the fleet of vans parked in the side lot. It looked exactly the same, frozen in time, a monument to a life I used to live. I took a deep breath. "Okay," I whispered to myself. "You can do this." The car stopped, the engine cut off, and then the front door opened, and there they were. Stepping out of the car, the air in Arkansas just feels different. It's heavier, humid. It smells like wet earth and pine trees. I unbuckled Archie from his car seat. He let out a little yawn, completely unaware that he was about to meet the people who shaped my entire existence. I held him close to my chest, my little shield, my armor. Stephen put his hand on my back. "You ready?" he asked. I nodded, but my knees were shaking. We walked up the front steps, those massive double doors. I've walked through them 1,000 times, carrying groceries, carrying siblings, carrying cameras. But this time I was carrying my own legacy. I reached for the handle. It was unlocked. It's always unlocked. I pushed it open. The smell hit me instantly. That familiar mix of industrial cleaner, coffee, and faint hairspray. The sound of chaos. Kids running, voices shouting from the kitchen, a piano clinking in the distance. For a second, I wanted to turn around. I wanted to run back to the safety of Nebraska. But then someone saw me. It was Josie. She was running down the hallway with a toy, and she skid to a halt when she saw us. Her eyes went wide. She didn't scream. She just stared. And then, one by one, the house went quiet. It was like a ripple effect. The piano stopped. The shouting in the kitchen stopped. Heads poked out from doorways. There stood Jana, the one who left. The one who wasn't supposed to come back with a secret. I stood in the entryway, clutching Archie, feeling 20 pairs of eyes on me. My heart was hammering so loud I thought it would wake the baby. "Surprise?" I whispered. My voice cracked. Nobody moved for a solid 10 seconds. It felt like an eternity. They were processing it. Jana is here, and Jana is holding a baby. And then the spell broke. Mom came around the corner from the kitchen. She was wiping her hands on a towel. When she saw me, she dropped the towel. She didn't say a word. She just covered her mouth with both hands, and I saw her eyes instantly fill with tears. Real tears. Not the keep sweet tears we used to fake for the show. These were raw. She walked toward me slowly, like she was afraid I was a hologram, like she was afraid I would vanish if she moved too fast. "Jana," she whispered. I held Archie out to her. "Mom, meet your grandson." She collapsed, not literally, but emotionally. She wrapped her arms around both of us, burying her face in the blanket. I felt her shaking. I felt her tears soaking into my shirt. In that moment, she wasn't Michelle Duggar, the matriarch. She was just my mom, and she had missed me. I realized then that while I was busy finding my freedom, she was busy grieving her daughter. Then there was Dad. He stood at the top of the stairs. He's always been the presence that fills the room. The authority. I stiffened up just out of habit. My posture straightened. Yes, sir was on the tip of my tongue. He walked down the stairs, step by step. His face was unreadable at first. He looked at Stephen. He looked at me. And then he looked at the baby. I expected a lecture. I expected a comment about why we didn't tell them sooner. I expected control. But he didn't say any of that. He reached out a finger and touched Archie's tiny hand. Archie grabbed his finger and squeezed it. Dad looked up at me, and his eyes were soft. He looks like you, Jana Banana, he said. That nickname. I hadn't heard it in years. It broke something inside me. The tension in my shoulders finally dropped. He wasn't looking at a rebellious daughter. He was looking at a miracle. And then the floodgates opened. The younger girls, Jennifer, Jordan, Josie, they swarmed us. Is it a boy? What's his name? Can I hold him? Can I touch his toes? It was the chaos I used to run from. But today, it felt like a warm blanket. We moved to the living room, that giant room where we filmed so many interviews. But this time, there were no producers telling us where to sit. I sat on the couch, and within seconds, Archie was being passed around like a precious jewel. I watched them. I watched my sisters cooing over him. I watched my brothers clapping Stephen on the back. I sat back and took a sip of the coffee Mom handed me. It was lukewarm, just how she always makes it. And for the first time in my life, sitting in that house, I didn't feel trapped. I looked at Stephen and smiled. We did it. We brought the new world into the old one. And the walls didn't crumble. They just expanded. Dinner at the big house is an event. It always has been. The long table, the buffet line, the noise level that rivals a school cafeteria. I stood in line with my paper plate, just like I used to. But this time, I wasn't serving everyone else first. Stephen made me sit down while he got my food. That small act of service. It felt huge in that room. I looked around the table. Dad sat at the head, of course. Mom was bouncing a grandkid on her knee. The conversations were flying. Who's courting? Who's building a house? What the latest construction project is. I tried to join in, but I felt out of sync. They were talking about things that used to be my whole world, but now felt like distant memories. I sat there, cutting my lasagna, realizing that I didn't know the inside jokes anymore. I didn't know the daily rhythm. I was physically sitting at the table, but emotionally, I was miles away in Nebraska. Then came the questions. They started innocent enough. How is the garden in Nebraska? Is it cold up there? But then they got specific. One of my younger brothers asked, So, do you go to a real church there? He didn't mean it to be rude. He just meant, do you go to our kind of church? The table went quiet again. I felt Stephen stiffen beside me. I took a sip of water and looked my brother in the eye. We go to a wonderful church, I said. We have a great community. I didn't elaborate. I didn't apologize. In the past, Jana would have tried to smooth it over. I would have tried to prove that we were still holy enough. But the new Jana, she doesn't need to prove anything. Dad cleared his throat and changed the subject. And in that moment, I knew the boundaries had been drawn. I was welcome here, but I was different now. And they knew it. Later that night, after the babies were asleep, I went upstairs to the girls' room. My old bed is still there. The quilt I made is still on it. But it felt small. It felt like a museum exhibit of a girl who doesn't exist anymore. Jennifer and Jordan were sitting on their bunks. They looked at me with these big, curious eyes. They wanted to know about the world. They wanted to know about my world. Is it scary? Jordan asked. Living so far away, I sat down beside her. No, I whispered. It's not scary. It's quiet. And sometimes quiet is the best thing you can find. We talked for hours. Not about rules or courting or modesty. We talked about life. I listened to their dreams. I saw so much of my younger self in them, waiting, wondering, hoping. I wanted to pack them in my suitcase and take them with me, but I knew I couldn't. I can only show them the door. They have to be the ones to walk through it. I went to the bathroom to wash my face. I looked in the mirror, the same mirror I looked in for 30 years. The lighting was the same. The wallpaper was the same. But the woman staring back at me was a stranger. I used to look in this mirror and see a helper, a daughter, a sister. I used to look for flaws. Was my hair perfect? Was my countenance bright enough? Tonight, I saw tired eyes. I saw messy hair. I saw a mother who had driven 10 hours with a newborn. And I saw happiness. Real, messy, unscripted happiness. I realized that for decades, I was trying to be a reflection of what my parents wanted. I was a mirror for them. But now I'm just me. I touched the glass. You made it. I whispered to my reflection. You finally made it out. Lying in bed that night, listening to the familiar creaks of the house, I came to a hard realization. I love this family. I love this house. But it's not my home anymore. Home isn't where you grew up. Home is where you are free. Home is that little farmhouse in Nebraska with Stephen and Archie. I used to think that leaving meant I was abandoning them. I used to think I was betraying the family by wanting something different. But lying there, holding Stephen's hand in the dark, I realized that you can love people from a distance. You can honor your past without living in it. I closed my eyes and slept better than I ever had in that house, because I knew that in 2 days I would be getting back in the car. I wasn't trapped here anymore. I was just a visitor, and being a visitor is a beautiful thing. Packing the car to leave Arkansas, it felt different this time. When I left the first time to move to Nebraska, I was crying. I was terrified. I felt like I was ripping my heart in two. But this time, I was just packing a car. I hugged Mom. She held Archie tight and kissed his cheeks. Come back soon, she whispered. I hugged Dad. He gave Stephen a firm handshake and told him to drive safe. There were no tears of devastation. There was no dramatic music. It was just a normal goodbye between a daughter and her parents. As I buckled Archie into his seat, I realized the power dynamic had shifted. I wasn't asking for permission to leave. I was simply going home. I wasn't running away. I was just continuing. I climbed into the passenger seat, looked at the house one last time, and smiled. It was a beautiful house. But it wasn't my cage anymore. It was just a building. Watching the gates of the big house fade in the rearview mirror, it's a specific kind of therapy. Miles turn into memories. With every mile marker we passed on the highway, I felt a little more like me again. The Jana who wears jeans. The Jana who dances in the kitchen with her husband. The Jana who doesn't have to perform perfection. I looked over at Stephen. He was humming along to the radio. He reached over and squeezed my hand. You okay? He asked. Yeah, I said, and I meant it. I realized that you can love people without living their life. You can respect your upbringing without repeating it. I can be a Duggar and a Wissmann. I can be grateful for the past and greedy for my future. The rearview mirror is small for a reason. You're supposed to glance at it, not stare at it. The windshield is massive because that's where you're going. Somewhere in Missouri, while Archie was sleeping, I made him a promise. I looked at his little face in the mirror and I whispered, You will never have to perform. He won't have to grow up with a camera in his face. He won't have to raise his siblings. He won't have to carry the weight of a brand before he can even walk. He will get to be messy. He will get to make mistakes. He will get to choose his own path. My sisters and I, we were the first generation to break the mold. We took the hammers to the glass ceiling of our childhood, and because of that, our children will walk on the shards without getting cut. That is the greatest gift I can give him. Not fame, not a TV show, but the freedom to be absolutely, wonderfully ordinary. Pulling into our driveway in Nebraska, it was dark. The stars were out. The cornfields were rustling in the wind. It was silent. And it was perfect. We carried the bags inside. The house smelled like us, like vanilla candles and Stephen's cologne. I put Archie in his crib. He didn't wake up. I walked into the kitchen and poured a glass of water. I stood there in the quiet, listening to the hum of the refrigerator. This is it. This is the happily ever after. It's not a castle. It's not a courtship proposal filmed for millions. It's a quiet kitchen in the middle of nowhere with a husband who loves me for who I am, not who I'm supposed to be. I finally found the place where my soul can take its shoes off. So if you are listening to this, if you are the girl who is waiting, if you are the one who feels stuck, if you are the one watching everyone else leave while you stay behind, listen to me. Your timing is not wrong. Your story is not over. I waited 34 years for this life. There were days I thought it would never happen. There were nights I cried myself to sleep wondering if God had forgotten me. He didn't, and He hasn't forgotten you. Don't settle for a script written by someone else. Don't live for the audience. Wait for the one who sees you. Wait for the quiet. My name is Jana Duggar Wissmann. I was the girl who stayed, but now I am the woman who is finally truly living. Thank you for walking this road with me. Welcome to my new beginning.